Colorado.
I actually drove through Kansas from Connecticut to California, which is where I'm from, in a U-Haul truck. And in Kansas, was saved. My life was saved by a deer that I hit in the middle of the night in my U-Haul truck as I
Oh
fell
wow.
asleep at the wheel.
Oh wow.
I know,
That's
crazy,
amazing, man.
crazy, right?
We got to get into that here in the story. You ready to roll?
I'm ready, man.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much. And I want to get into your life as a brand storyteller and all of the good work that you're doing by asking first and foremost. 5 years ago, we were getting into this pandemic. So many unknowns, so many things were changing in our worlds. Ultimately, now, how did you survive the pandemic and how has it reverberated into the work and what you do today?
You're probably not going to not like my answer, but I never bought into the pandemic. I thought it was a bunch of crock of shit, and I just stayed away from that space. And I
Yeah.
continued serving my clients. And I own another business, a photography business. So here in the Carolinas and in the South, we were a bit different than you were in Colorado, Kansas area. I understand. So
Yeah.
we didn't really shut down to the effect that you did. But I found that by just continuing my business and operating from the standpoint of just offering value to people, we were able to kind of keep stay in our lane and keep things moving. So yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
really affect me, to be honest with you. In fact, my business probably doubled in size during that period.
It's interesting when I take a cross sample of everybody that I ask that question to, I don't really get a lot of the dire. Now, it doesn't take away from the woe that with it that happened with all of the, biology that got destroyed during that time, but it's more of just how everybody was handling things. Business picked up, new things were acquired, the earth slowed down, Beijing's air quality got better, the canal in Venice cleared up. There were all these things. Nature had a minute to actually breathe too.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that if you want to go that direction, I think the Earth is an organism just like we are, and in its own infinite way, it sometimes does weird things to survive as well. And I think perhaps it was a wake up call for a larger section of society that up until that point had been sort of just comatose and walking in a dream, if you will, and said, you know what, there's a lot of things that are going on right now that are probably not in your best interest and in our interest on a macro micro level. And I, as Mother Earth, am going to shift that a little bit and cause a catalyst for you all to sort of, and like Buddha says, when the student is ready, the message arrives. I think some people were susceptible to that and received it, and those are the people that survived and had growth, and other people were just sort of stuck in their cabin of fear, which is those people who didn't survive metaphorically and literally.
Yeah. So let's get into exactly what you do on a daily basis here in
All right, you
2025.
don't want to go down that rabbit
No,
hole.
no, 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 no. I think we did, and I was going to add to it, but I think we hit it. I think there was enough profound thought. So I want to get into what you do.
Fair
I want.
enough. Fair enough. I used to run a podcast called Unlearn Everything, and these were the conversations we had with people, and it was pretty wild. Some of the stuff that we
It's
went
great.
down. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, I will. I do. I will tell you one thing that I remember during the pandemic is at one point I went to there was a big nature sanctuary that's next to me, and I took my son out there. We drove around all the time, and I pulled up and stopped and looked at a lake, and there was a car that pulled up, and this guy came up with a big telephoto lens, and he looked over and he said, "I've been wanting for 10 years to catch an image of this bald eagle, and it's finally
Mm.
here." And I think about how the earth slowed down. I actually at one point went on a rural road on a drive and saw a dog chasing a deer. I've never seen that in my life.
You should come hang out with me because my dogs chase deer all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it happens, but it was like they jumped across the street like they were in a Disney movie. It was like, it was like, what is going on here?
I have a funny story around that. I have a tendency to wake up in the middle of the night because I'm not a very good sleeper, and this will be like 3, 4 in the morning when I typically start some of my days sometimes. But I always go for a walk early in the morning, and I was kind of going through my neighborhood, and there's always deer in my neighborhood. And my dog, I have 3 dogs now, but my 2 dogs at the time, I have a pit bull and like a baby Maltese Yorkie,
Yeah.
got into a tree round chase with a deer that just kept going in
Oh,
a circle.
wow.
Dude, we're literally like maybe 30 seconds. They just chased each other in a circle and the deer just darted off. It's like, all right, I'm bored with y'all. I'm out. And
That's
the
it.
dogs were like, what happened?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the
Yeah.
funniest thing ever.
It's like a real speedy guy getting caught into a rundown in baseball. You're like, is he going to make it? I think it may happen, but it won't. So, so I want to get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. And
Fair
kids
enough.
always pull the truth out. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. It's career day. The kid in the back of the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Well, I do a variety of things because I liked I've been blessed with a few talents. Thank you, whoever gave me those. And so I'm sort of like a squirrel chaser. Ooh, squirrel! I got another idea. And
Yeah.
so I've spent a lot of time the last few years really honing in on what I'm good at and what my zone of genius is. And what it really boils down to is I'm a coach first and foremost. I help other people build their business by strategically sort of figuring out who they are, what they actually do, and what problems they solve. And then how can we capitalize that to a larger audience that's more focused on the right type of person that you want to work with. And that all centers around your brand, your messaging. How do you tell your story? How do you connect with a real audience that actually needs your zone of genius? And then connecting the two. And then over the years, because I've been in business as an entrepreneur for almost 20 years now, I have collected a massive Rolodex of builders. So from SEO to social media to website and all of that. And then based upon your messaging, once we get that strategy in alignment with who you are, then I connect you with the right type of people to now market and build the rest of that so that you can start really just get your business on automation.
So when you were in that classroom as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A snake. I literally was asked when I was 4 years old what I wanted to be, and I was like, I want to be a snake. Anyway, I actually thought that I was going to. I didn't know this at the time. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. I had a lawn mowing business when I lived in Colorado. I had a lawn and a snow removal business, and then I worked for a perverted old lady cleaning her pool. And so I've had all these sorts of little jobs that I've always done. But I didn't honestly, truthfully, Joe, know what I was going to be when I grew up because I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any coaches. My father was completely absent. I never had anybody sort of take me. I have two teenage daughters who I speak to on a regular basis. And like, who do you want to become with? You have an opportunity now to do something with your life. What is that going to look like? How can you add value? How can you just not be a consumer and always sort of serve people in some way? And so I didn't know what I wanted to be, truthfully. And I went straight into corporate America because I had no clue what I wanted to do because somebody offered me a paycheck with three zeros on it. And I was like, wait, I can make this kind of money? Because I grew up really poor, had no opportunities. I'm one of 12 kids. It's like I was always just sort of trying to figure out, but I didn't honestly, truthfully know what I wanted to do when I was a big kid. And I'm sort of in the space where I've figured out what I'm really good at, but I think that's an iterative process for me, and I don't know what tomorrow holds for me. I think there's going to be a lot bigger things for me on the horizon.
So who rose up through that and became an inspirational force, a heroic force for you to be who you are, to evolve into where you're at now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've actually been answering this question on other conversations with my circle. I've been blessed to have. I've played sports my whole life.
Yeah,
I was actually just reflecting on this last week. I think the most inspirational people in my life have been my sports athletic coaches,
yeah.
and up until the point where I became a professional entrepreneur, and then I started hiring coaches to help me. So there's two stages of that. There were my sports coaches, and again, I've played every sport on the planet. I played football in college, and I've just been surrounded by some really motivational people and some bad ones, but mostly really good coaches that took me under their wing and guided me and helped me sort of find and figure things out. And then now as a professional, I actually have three separate coaches that I work with on a regular basis. My accountability team, partners, peer to peer, people who are doing something big with their life, and that I have an opportunity to connect with when I'm struggling with something, either reactively or proactively, to sort of continue to grow and develop myself. So yeah, I guess there's two different sectors for that answer.
You kind of led me to an epiphany because I was in the same boat. I didn't grow up around anybody that did anything that I'm doing now. No role models. No one pushed me towards doing anything other than going to college. But I remember my coaches. I was a cross country runner. I was really small in high school. I was 4'11", so I was just chasing, running, trying to catch my shadow. I couldn't play baseball or do any of the other big sports. So I remember my coaches were really big deals, and I looked up to them, and they
Yeah,
were really guiding lights. And I
yeah.
find that's interesting in this modern day and era of coaching because it really has developed over the last few decades. Like I've asked coaches, like, how did this happen? And they're like, can you imagine athletes that you watch on TV not having coaches?
Hmm.
And why would not regular humans that are in the professional world need that level of help too?
100%. And I didn't realize that in my entire trajectory. Honestly, it's only in the last 5 years, to be truthful with you and transparent, that I really realized. And I was just having this conversation a few minutes ago before I got on with you. I'm working on marketing this retreat that I was telling you about, and I sort of realized that. And she asked me, well, what kind of got you to this point? So we sort of have, what's the messaging? And I was like, I was sort of realized that my circle kind of sucked. I wasn't surrounded by anybody that was inspiring to me. And I was, not to sound vain, but I was always the most talented person in every one of my circles. Like, and again, that's not an ego statement. It's just sort of like, I didn't do a very good job of surrounding myself with good people. I was the smartest. I was the most talented. I made the most money. I had traveled the most. I'd done all the most things. And I was like, y'all fools aren't giving me any value right now. All you want to do is get drunk every weekend and go do stupid stuff. And I was like, and so I sort of started living this like lonely existence. I'm like, I don't really have a lot of people around me. And so I spent literally the last 5 years, and that included hiring coaches and really going out and working on me as an individual, my personal development. Who are you as an individual? And what happened in the process of that is I discovered my zone of genius because I used to operate in a completely different way with my businesses, but through my coaching and these amazing people that I started surrounding myself with, I realized that my zone of genius was also coaching. And I'd been doing it my whole life. I just didn't know I was doing it. I'd never had a label on it. And so by hiring these coaches and changing my circle, it had this massive compound effect on everything that I'm doing now and has now ultimately led me to where I'm operating and making money and really kind of having a real impact on the world, which is what I've always wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it.
So I'm going to go back to photography. Are you a photographer?
I own a photography agency and I've had a camera in my hand since I was 12 years old, but do not label me as that because that negates me.
Right. Well, no, and I
I'm
love
just joking.
photography. That was the one thing my dad did actually lend to me. What was your first or one of the most, like when you get into that romantic notion of photography, what was the camera? What was the one that you learned on?
I will most likely start getting teary when I tell this story, but I was 12 years old and I had an art teacher who was moonlighted as a photographer on the weekends. And he had a partial likening to me. I didn't know what it was at the time, but you know, he had a fondness for me. And so I was always sort of very close with this guy. And I stole his camera from him actually. And I took it home and I took some photographs of some of my friends and I doing nonsensical things. And I completely forgot all about it. And a few months later, he slaps an envelope down on the desk and he's like, "And Mr. Tyndall, I need you to stay after class." And I was like, "Fuck, what I do now?" Because I was always a troublemaker. I was always doing something. And I open up the envelope and I'd never before seen this before. And I'm thumbing through it. And I was like, holy fuck. First of all, how much trouble am I in? And second of all, these are my friends. And I had taken these, and there was nothing impressive about it, but I had taken these moments and I froze them. And I had never seen that. Remember, I'm dirt poor. Like I had
Yeah.
never had anything in my life. My first pair of football cleats that were brand new were purchased by my college football coach when he picked me up off the airplane in Hartford, Connecticut, and he went down to Dick's Sporting Goods and bought me my first pair of cleats. So I never had any of these things, right? And so I saw these photographs and I'm like, holy shit, I took this moment and froze it. And that sort of, I didn't know it was going to become a business for me. That was sort of tabled. But then a few years later, oddly enough, I was working in the corporate world and my business that I was in, one of the businesses that we owned was we serviced manufactured mobile home loans.
Yeah.
So, so the company was a bunch of old codgery old men, and they had no idea about anything technology. And that was my job actually, as I was bringing them into the 21st century with technology and all the automation and all these things. And there was a meeting one day between all the corporate executives, and they're like, "Hey, we need someone. We need to be able to take photographs of these homes, and nobody knows how to take photographs properly. Does anybody have any photography experience?" And this was like the first exposure to digital cameras. And I was like, I own a digital camera and I like taking photos. And they're like, cool, you're on the road for the next 8 months. You're going to visit every office around the country, which was 52 of them, most of them in the deep south, and you're going to teach all of our field reps how to take photographs. And so that sort of got me into the photography business. And anyway, I'm going to fast track. I was living a vapid, soulless existence in the corporate world and watching my life literally drain away from me. And I was like, there's got to be something bigger to this. And so I was like, what am I good at? Well, I love taking photographs. I'm very artistic. How can I find a business? So I literally started pimping myself out in every way, shape, or form. And I was like, I will take whatever pictures you want for you. And that led me into my business. And before you know it, I was making six figures taking photographs of people while I was also working corporate full time. And I was like, hmm. So anyway, fast track that, and I finally the company got bought, everybody got laid off, and I was like, this is the natural segue for me, and I just poured my heart and soul into photography. I still own that business. I've probably photographed 1,000 weddings, and who knows, 10,000 different people over the course of the last 15 years. I've traveled the world taking photographs for destination weddings and engagements and all sort of stuff. And yeah, so to answer your question, it's the magic in the process and being able to take a moment, freeze that for somebody with all the humility and responsibility that they're giving you to do that for them, and then hand that to them and allow them to sort of hold on and preserve and have that. Dude, that's a big ass honor,
It's huge.
right?
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
And you'll never have another version of you that existed in that moment.
Yeah.
So I took that and I froze that for you, whether it's your first tear or your daddy walking you down the aisle or your engagement session or whatever the fuck it is. I do boudoir for a lot of girls, and being able to show them what they look like, not what they think they look like. And it's like, it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Like being able to do that for somebody, it's a huge honor. So yeah, there you go. It's a
That's why
long
I
story.
asked it because I figured there would be a profound response to that. So my camera was a K1000, Pentax
Oh,
K1000,
wow. Wow.
and it was just so much fun. So if you had your druthers and you could take pictures of anything, you could get dropped off anywhere in the world and just go for a day and take pictures. Where are you going?
Man, I love telling people stories. I like working with people. I think find some interesting people or not, and just let them just be with them for a day
Yeah,
and just document their life as I see them.
yeah,
And that's how I do photography, by the way. I don't really have a structure. I don't even know that I'm a photographer. I'm not really like technically sound in photography. I'm just really good at seeing things.
yes,
And my strength is connecting with people and disarming you so that you show up as you.
hmm,
And in that conversation, in that experience, I suddenly find that people actually show up as themselves, and I'm just sitting over here like a weird creeper taking photos of it. And it's just
yeah,
sort of like being able to do that with people and then share that with them, and they're like,
yeah,
"Holy shit! Like that's really powerful."
yeah, yeah. It's a big deal. So how have you? What's the biggest risk that you've taken professionally?
Oh my God. Oh, selling my business, walking away from a 5 year engagement to a woman who I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, selling another business that I just was going nowhere, and really kind of just fully walking away from the corporate world and realizing it was what it was and it was not designed for me and it's designed for somebody, it's just not me. And just realizing that I do have the power and the potential, and I took a bet on myself and continue to take bets on myself, and realize that regardless I'm going to figure it out. It's a process, but I'm going to figure it out in the end. And so just sort of betting on myself, it's always been one of the things I never did as a child. I was very insecure, I had scarcity, it was like I need validation, ooh, look at me, and that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until I started really realizing that I was the problem. I was sabotaging myself, so I started working on me. And then in the process of working on me, I was like, dude, I'm a pretty cool motherfucker. I'm gonna bet on me. And that's
Yeah.
sort of how it just sort of landed.
So how have you parlayed? What's been your philosophy on work and taking care of yourself? So when you wake up every day, you have a job and you have your soul. How do you balance that? Do you find a Libratic balance, or how do you go about that?
They're all intertwined. It's a
Yeah,
symbiosis. How you show up as an individual is how you will ultimately show up as a professional. And if you don't spend the time working on yourself, whether it's meditation or fitness or yoga or the way you eat or the way you don't eat, that's ultimately going to trip into how you operate your business, how other people perceive you, how other people receive you, all of those things. And so I believe they're a symbiosis. And I actually teach that as part of some of the programs I do with my coaching business is let's build the person first, the business comes second, and then they work hand in hand. Because think about it, man. If you're like eating like a fat bastard and you're eating shitty food, you're not going to be able to run around and run a business for very long. And that's going to have all sorts of domino effects. How people respond to you, how people treat you, how you treat other people is like you become what you consume. And that's a metaphor and a literal. So, how can you build yourself first and foremost? Focus on you as an individual, and then that will transform how you run your business.
so if you had a dream tonight, you could run into that young 18-year-old version of you trying to go out and find yourself and your place in the world. You can give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart?
That's a great question. And it's hard for me to answer that because I don't know that I would want to interfere with the development and the process that he went through.
Yeah.
Because in the process of that, of those failures, of those lessons, of those things that he had to go through, he learned the polarity of life and learned to come out on the other side with a completely different perspective of things. So I would probably just give him a hug and whew, just be like, it's going to be okay, man.
Yeah.
Just continue. Just continue. Really, just continue.
So on that gig that you had to go around and take all the pictures of the buildings, what was the coolest place you went to? What was one of the most unexpectedly cool places that you went on that collection of
They weren't
places?
buildings, they were mobile homes.
Well,
Let's just call them what
okay,
they
that's all
were,
right.
bro. Okay. They were just mobile homes. They were double wide, single wides in the middle of bumfuck America.
But you get to travel, you get to see the world. I guess even overall in a broader sense, what's been one of the most unexpectedly magical places that you've traveled to?
All right, so there's two different stories there, so I just want to make
Yeah.
sure we're clear.
Yes.
My early photography was working for a company that took photographs of mobile homes.
Yeah.
And in that space, I've seen a lot of crazy shit. I've had knives pulled on me. I've been chased by dogs. I've had pranks pulled on me in the middle of Jackson, Mississippi, because I was the executive and they liked me, and so they took me out in the middle of a forest and they basically left me there, and I got lost.
Oh
So that
no.
was interesting. But in terms of travel, for my professional job as a photographer, wow, man, I have been all over the world and I have seen some amazing things. I really feel like the travel itself is sort of the biggest epiphany for me. If I ran the world, you would be required to live in a non-native speaking country for 1 year
Yeah.
because it enables you to see a different perspective that's not your own
Yeah.
and to sort of understand that you here in America, especially, we are not the center of the world. We're just a speck in it, and everyone else has something else going on too that is truly unique to them, and it's our opportunity to sort of experience that. And if you haven't traveled and spent some time in it, and I'm not talking going down to Cancun and doing it at an American resort
Yeah.
or Disney World. I'm like, dude, get to another country where you have to figure out how to communicate with people and you have to like literally immerse yourself in the culture and understand how to get along, how to eat the foods, how to read the menus, how to hail a cab, all of those things. Like that will change your entire perspective when you come back home and realize, you know what? I am not the center of the world. There is something much bigger and more meaningful than me.
Great answer. So let me ask you this. Let's say you walk into a room of all of the people throughout your career that have dealt with you in a business sense, clients and colleagues. You can swim through that group of people, go to a podium, and tell them one fun story, one fun anecdote, jumping out of an airplane, first concert you saw, like just something that you did that was crazy. What would be a fun story that would humanize you to that group of humans?
I don't know if there's any one story. I've had a pretty colorful life. I think I would say something my grandfather told me once, and this is always carried with me everywhere I go. He's like, there's something unique about you. And my dad was a dick. My grandfather was not. My grandfather was really like the only person that was really kind to me as an adult in the parental situation. And he used to really look after me. And he always just tried to build me up because my dad was very abusive and all these sorts of things. And he used to say, you know what? I don't think you realize how much power you actually have. And he would sort of go on. He's like, I could literally take you anywhere and drop you in the middle of nowhere. And I would come back an hour later and you would have corralled the necessary people to either get a game going, whether it's a baseball game or a kickball game or whatever it is, and you would have built something in a matter of an hour's time. And my takeaway from that is that I'm really good at building community. And I believe in the power of community and I believe in the power of collaboration. And I think for me, what I've spent the last 5 years of my life really diligently focusing on is how can I bring people together to collaborate, to create, to build something. Because I do not think that we as humans were designed to live in silos. I think we were designed to be part of a community and build things. And I think the world right now is in a sort of a diversion going on to separate people and put us in silos so that we can't operate and build together.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to change that paradigm to the best of my ability in my little microcosm so that we can have something to stand on. Like I believe that's really the cornerstone of humanity.
So of everything that you've done, experienced, and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Me, I was a fucking wreck many years ago.
Yeah.
Me, I have two wonderful daughters who by all standards are quite happy and fulfilled and doing really cool things on the planet. I have a wonderful partner who has three kids of her own that I have adopted and become a surrogate father to them. And I feel like I'm leading now finally for the first time in my life. I'm actually showing up and yeah, man. I get a little teary. I'm very emotional.
It's
I think
okay.
me. Thanks for
Yeah.
thanks for the question. Yeah, I'm proud
Yeah.
of me. I'm proud of who I've become and where I'm going right now.
So let's dig into that answer a little more. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am just beginning to tap into my power. I am a talented dude who has been blessed by whoever created us and given me a lot of variables. I have a nice balance of left and right brain, so I'm very creative, but I'm also very pragmatic. I'm able to really connect with people on a very genuine level. I do not believe in bullshit. I believe in genuine connections. I'm very unapologetic. I will tell you exactly how I feel. I show up that way on social media. I show up that way in conversations. I'm very intense, but if you take the time to get to know me, you'll find one of the most loyal, um, non-conditional people you'll ever meet. I really truly believe that I was put on this planet to help make other people better. And so I didn't realize that for a long time. I was very selfish for a lot of time, including in my first marriage. I was not a good husband. And then that was a process I had to go through. And I've learned from that. I'm very good at sort of seeing where my mistakes are and how I can change those and evolve to become a better version of myself. And I'm truly in the business right now of trying to become the best version of myself possible in every moment.
So we get off this call, time machine pulls up. You can go anywhere in the history of sports and see one game. Where are you going?
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, man. I don't really believe, I've never been gaga about people, but if there's one person I would love to just spend a day with, it would be Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that would
And
be a trip.
for his, even for his flaws and whatever. I mean, come on, we're all human. This microcosm that people put him under. I would love to just spend some time with Michael Jordan in any way, shape, or form. I would just like, I don't even know about a game. Can I just spend a day like playing some 101, having a beer,
That's
just
it.
having a conversation? Man, I
That's
just
it.
want to like be in your presence. I think like he's in as athletes go, or maybe Kobe Bryant. I love Kobe Bryant too, but probably Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah, MJ would be it. So if anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, learn more, questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
I would go to my website, thebrandstoryteller.com, or you can find me Devo the Brand Storyteller on Instagram, same on LinkedIn, and just drop me a note. I always respond to everybody. Marielle, she's my operator. She always makes sure that I have messages that need to be responded to, and I'd love to make a connection with you.
I love it. Devo, this has been great, man. It's been so great to bump into you. I love your style, love your energy. It's fierce, it's wonderful, it's raw. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Before we go, can I do a shameless plug for something I'm building right
Oh,
now?
absolutely, dude. Yeah.
Dude, if you could please share this with yourself, with anyone who's interested. In November, I launched my first ever retreat. We've been talking about community. I have launched the Alchemist Retreat. It's November 3rd to November 7th. It's in a Mayan jungle in the middle of Tulum, Mexico. And we have the entire resort for 5 days, 4 nights. And there's only 40 seats available for this. It is going to be 5 days of immersive, personal, professional, inspirational, transformative building and surrounding yourself with 30 other people, 40 other people who are in the same space as you, looking for something bigger, something more meaningful. We'll have business workshops, we'll have personal workshops, we'll be doing yoga, we'll be sitting kumbaya around the campfire at night, community meals, everything. And it's all inclusive. Everything's on my website. And I'm just really trying to promote the shit out of that because I really believe in the power of this. I've been spending the last 5 years going to retreats myself, surrounding myself with really cool people, and I know what that does for me and what that's done for my life and for my business. And so now I'm building my own vessel for people to do the same.
I'm going to direct everybody in the show notes to get to your site. And if you even have a special shout out you want me to put in my show notes, I will. And we'll shuttle people that way. So, yeah,
That's kind of you.
Have a wonderful time at the retreat. And in general, Devo, again, I'm always so reassured when I run into cats like you that we're on this planet, we're doing good work. So keep spreading the light, my man.
Man, good show. I appreciate the flow. It's good questions and
Thank
good
you.
conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Take care.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.